Hello. Hopefully you can hear me. Always a slight panic at the beginning of these things. So if somebody can just let me know in the chat that you can definitely hear me, that would be amazing. If my mic is not working, then please let me know. Hello, I can see lots of people are settling in, which is great. Hello, everybody. Yes, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Well, I can carry on then. So good evening, everyone. I hope that you are all well, and thank you so much for coming along this evening, especially at 7 o'clock, when you're taking some of your time out of your evening to come along. So thank you so much, first of all. So I'm going to start off with just a little bit of admin whilst we wait for everyone else to arrive. But essentially, some of you will already know a little bit about what we're doing this evening. Just in case you don't, maybe your friend recommended that you join this evening. My name is Hollie Grant, and I'm the founder of the Bump Plan. Also, someone's telling me that my mic is a bit crackly. Do let me know if it is too crackly, and I will take it away. So I'm Hollie, and I'm the founder of the Bump Plan and Pilates PT. And this evening we are hoping to break a Guinness World Record for the most number of people viewing a prenatal Pilates class on YouTube, which is a really long way of saying that essentially we want to celebrate active pregnancies and hopefully help change the narrative around exercise and staying active during pregnancy by breaking the world record and putting pregnant people on the map. So tonight I will be teaching a 40-minute prenatal Pilates class. Everybody that turns up tonight will be helping towards that number. We've got to try and get 1,500 or 1,501 people watching the class. I'm actually going to take my mic off. Hopefully you can still hear me. There we go. Hopefully that's better. Oh no, how annoying. So hopefully you can hear me a bit better now. But we need 1,501 people to show up tonight at any one point. Someone's saying my microphone is still crackly. Oh no, one last attempt. One last shot, and hopefully, bear with me. There we go. Is that any better? If not, technology has got the better of me. So 1,501 people at any one point, which is a lot of people. So if we manage to hit that number, it would be amazing. But equally, this is really just about getting as many people as possible to see that staying active during pregnancy is a really, really positive thing to do. Sorry, I'm being sidetracked by the fact the microphone is still crackly. If my husband is watching from the house, maybe you could come down and help. There's nothing else really I can do, so I'm just going to have to keep cracking on. So tonight, as part of International Women's Day's campaign, Break the Bias, we're hoping to help break the bias around staying active during pregnancy. We will also be raising money for the incredible Active Pregnancy Foundation, who are doing such incredible work at helping to change culture around physical activity during pregnancy, and also to help change the literature out there to try and bring to try and bring some more stability in the language that's used. And if you are pregnant, do check out their website. Oh no, it's saying that my microphone is broken. I've never had this before. I normally use Zoom. Stuart, my husband, if you're listening, maybe you can come down and help. Oh no, that will just be the worst thing if you can't hear me. Anyway, for every person that watches this tonight, we'll be donating £1 to the Active Pregnancy Foundation. And if we hit the target of 1,500, which is huge, so we realise that we might not hit that number, we will donate £2,000 to them this evening. Now, last bit of admin, and then we will move on. To participate in this class, I do need you to have read the disclaimer, which should still be below, and hopefully you can also if you haven't looked at it and agreed to what we've put there, you can always come off this, quickly have a read, and then come back. But essentially, I'll be teaching a 40-minute prenatal Pilates class that is safe for you if you are healthy and you're having an uncomplicated pregnancy and you have no contraindications to exercise. Make sure that you've got lots of space, you don't get too hot, and that you stay hydrated as well. So all of the usual safety things. And if you are not sure whether you should be exercising, then it might be worth pausing and then coming back. We have help. I've changed to 3 different mics. Is it good enough as it is? Stu, listen, I've already stitched the first one, then the second one, now this is the third one. So I'm just going to go through. Okay, no help there, but still, we're going to power on. So hopefully you can all hear me enough to take part in this evening's class. So if you're ready, let's get started. So if you want to come onto your mat and just make sure that you're roughly in the center of your mat for me. So make sure you've got some space around you. And then what I'd like you to do is pick up your feet a few times and imagine that you are walking down the street. So I want you to be, it feels very, very strange, but just imagine that you're walking down the street, and then I want you to start, and I want you to imagine that you are stood at a bus stop, or you're stood in a queue, and I want you to imagine how you would stand if you were doing that. So try and be really honest with yourself. Try not to put yourself in the position that you think I want you to be in. I want you to get into the position that you think that you would stand in. Sometimes it really helps to close your eyes and just settle in and have a think about the shape that you would create with your body. So where would your feet be? Where would your arms be? What would you be doing with your pelvis? And just have a think about what your resting posture is here. Now, during pregnancy, your posture can understandably change quite quickly, and that's a really normal part of pregnancy and the adaptations that our posture takes to try and accommodate that growing bump. But I do just want you to think about how you might stand when you're not concentrating. Now, during tonight's class, I'm going to be talking a lot about neutral posture. That is not perfect posture, but sometimes it can set you up for success during a certain exercise. But right now, we will be in anything but neutral. So find that position and then hold it there for me. So once you've had to think about what your posture's like, I also want you to think about what your breath might be like right now. Is it quite shallow? Are you breathing all into your belly? Do you actually feel the rib cage moving as you breathe in? During pregnancy, especially towards the end of pregnancy, there's not a huge amount of space for your diaphragm, so breathing deeply is quite difficult. So maybe you've noticed you've got quite a shallow breath. Then when you're ready, I want you to open your eyes and let's find a more neutral posture. So have a look down at your feet. So we're going to bring them to about hip width apart and parallel. So have a look down at those feet, if you can see them, over your bum. And then pick up your toes and spread them nice and wide. So really get a good base with your foot. And tonight, during the standing exercises, I really want you to think about carrying your weight in your big toe, little toe, and heel. So get that even spread. Then I want you to think about your knees. Are they locked? Are they bent? Ideally, we'd have somewhere in between the two, so we'd have soft knees. Think about your pelvis. I almost want you to imagine your pelvis like a bowl of water or a bowl of popcorn. So would we be able to find a position where the popcorn pretty much stays in the bowl? During pregnancy, some of us might find we're being pulled forwards by a growing bump. So we might just want to have a little think about finding that neutral position. It doesn't have to be perfect, remember? Then I want you to think about your rib cage. Let's imagine that that's also a bowl that's upside down. See if you can stack that bowl above the pelvis bowl. So it's almost like two bowls looking into each other. During pregnancy, sometimes we might find we lean back a bit or we get a bit of rib flare to accommodate for that growing bump. So maybe we just work on lining those 2 points up a bit more. Arms are by your side, you're showing off your collarbone and your eye line is straight ahead. Now, how weird does this position feel? Remember that nobody has perfect neutral posture, but hopefully right now you might feel a little bit more stacked than you did when you found your relaxed default posture. Now in this position, let's think about the breath. We're going to be breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. So nice big deep breath in through the nose and then breathe out and clean out your lungs. I really want you to think about filling up all of the rib cage for me. So as you breathe in, are you breathing into the sides, the front and the back of the rib cage? It can really help if you take your hands to the sides of the ribs for me. And as you breathe, are you feeling any movement in the rib cage? So big deep breath in, aim for that 360-degree breath, And as you exhale, we blow it away. Just do a few more of those. And just one thing I want you to think about during tonight's class, we're going to be aiming for moderate intensity. We're not doing anything particularly cardio here, but just make sure that during class you would still be able to hold a conversation. So you can talk to me if you like. So we've thought about neutral posture, we've thought about the breath. One last thing I'd like us to do before we properly start, pop your hands on your tummies for me. Whether you've got a bump yet or not, pop your hands on your tummy. What do you feel when you breathe? So as you breathe in, you should really feel a bit of softening of your tummy, a relaxing of your abdominals, and on the exhale, you might feel a bit of a contracting of your abdominals. So as you're taking that nice, big, slightly over-exaggerated breath, do you feel anything happening under your hands? Now, there's a muscle I'd like us to just introduce before we move on, which is your transverse muscle. So it's like a corset that wraps around your core. Take a nice big deep breath in, and on your next exhale, I want you to feel as if you're slightly drawing your tummy in away from your hands. On the inhale, feel it softening, and then do that again. As you exhale, you might already feel it, but think about a gentle hugging in of your baby or a slight pulling in of your lower tummy. It's not aggressively sucking and bracing, but this muscle that you're feeling engaged is a really important muscle, particularly during pregnancy. So I'll call it your corset muscle, and that's what we're after. We're after this muscle that almost acts like a corset. So we're going to do that one more time. On that exhale, feel that engagement of your core. And then when you're ready, you can just relax. And I would just have a quick wiggle and a quick shake out. So 3 things that I'll be talking about a lot tonight: the breath, neutral posture, and that corset engagement. And let's get started properly. So, can you re-find neutral? Now that we've come out of it, can we find it again? So feet hip width and parallel, knees are a little bit soft, pelvis like a bowl of water, rib cage stacked above it, arms by your side, and your eye line is straight ahead. Now when you're ready, I'd like you to reach your right arm overhead, almost like you're a cheerleader. So reach your right arm overhead and then hold it here for a moment. Now, what's happened to your posture? Have we come out of neutral? Maybe we've gone into a bit of extension. Maybe we've let the ribs pop. Maybe the tummy's poking out. I want you to see if you can try and maintain neutral. Swapping the arms over, so it's one arm in the air, one arm by your side, and we're going to switch and open, switch and open. And we're going to keep these arms moving. So, as you move the arms, naturally, the rest of the body would probably move. So we've noticed that the rib cage moved and the spine moved. And again, that's a completely normal part of how we move. But here, what I'd like you to do is try and maintain neutral. And what that will encourage is a bit of core engagement. You'll be using your abdominals at the front to help stabilize, to try and keep you in neutral. So there's nothing wrong with moving the spine, but we're going to get more core engagement here if we manage to stay in neutral. Lovely. We're going to do 4 more. 3, 2, 1 more. Now bring both arms over the head. Both arms reach up, both arms down. Exhale, reach, inhale, lower. Again, are we managing to stay in neutral? Remember I mentioned at the beginning that during pregnancy we tend to get a bit of rib flare. We sort of start to lean back, not everybody, but some of us during pregnancy. We feel the ribs poking out. So here I just want you to check, are we managing to keep them pretty still? Now, I'm going to be taking us through a couple of exercises that gradually get more challenging and gradually get a bit more wobbly. So if at any point you don't feel safe, move back to the option before, okay? So we'll do 1 more of these, then we'll reach the arms back down by our sides. Now, if you need to be near a wall for stability, please do grab one or a chair, because we're going to come up onto a calf raise, and then I'd like you to hold for a second. So we're up on tiptoes, hold on to something if you feel really wobbly. It's wobbly enough, not pregnant. Now with your ankles, do they fall out? Do they fall in? Or are we managing to keep them relatively neutral? And then I want us to inhale to lower the heels down. Exhale, we calf raise, and inhale, we lower. So let's get these calves working. During pregnancy, some of you might notice that there's a little bit more swelling around the ankles and the feet, which can be due to the extra fluid that we have in our bodies during pregnancy. Getting your calves working can help push that fluid up from the feet. closer to the heart. So it could be helpful, especially if you sit down a lot of the day. So use a wall if you need to, hold a chair if you don't feel safe. We're going to do a couple more of these, keeping those ankles pretty neutral. Then if you can, we're going to add the arms in as well. So as my heels lift, I also lift my arms and then I lower, okay? So again, if you need to hold a wall, feel free to do a single arm and maybe swap every now and again or stick to the option before. So now what we've got is those calves working, and also we're thinking about that ability to stay neutral as the arms move. So just watch that this isn't happening as a way of kind of counteracting that change in centre of gravity. The reason I like this exercise is it is challenging your ability to cope with a change in centre of gravity, which is what's happening during pregnancy the whole time. So next option, if you want it, you can leave your arms in the air and you could just calf raise, okay? So now we're really having to focus on that alignment of the rib cage over the pelvis. Lovely. We're going to do 4 more of these. Hopefully your calves are warming up. And 3. Well done, everybody. Make sure that you're breathing. Last one. Finish with the heels on the floor. Bring your hands to prayer at your chest. And then reset for a moment. If you need to wriggle your ankles as well, that's completely fine. So come back to standing in neutral, but this time I want your hands in prayer at your chest. Check that your knees aren't locked, and I want you to imagine there's a wall a couple of inches behind your bum. From here, we're going to start to push our bums backwards towards that imaginary wall, and that will start to create a hinge at your hips. And then I want you to keep going. And we're going to keep going as far as is comfortable for us, and then we're going to hold. Now we'll get to a point where if we wanted to go any further, we'd have to either bend our knees, a few clicks there, or we'd have to round our back. So I want you to find that right point where your back still is relatively neutral. Okay, so I'm not rounding and I'm not extending. So I've got a nice neutral spine and I feel a stretch in my hamstrings and my glutes. That's quite important. Then when you're ready, from here, as you exhale, push your feet into the floor, and we're going to slowly start to come all the way back to standing, meeting in neutral, ready to go again. So we're going to inhale, start pushing your bums backwards, hinging forwards at the hips, keeping the spine nice and neutral. And then as you exhale, you press your feet into the floor, you start to come back to standing, and we meet at the top. So as we're moving, hopefully the only joint that's really changing position is the hip joint. So we're hinging at the hips, but the back stays nice and neutral. Now, if we think about during pregnancy, as our bumps or our uterus gets heavier, there's a tendency sometimes for us to end up in a bit of extension, because look, the weight would pull me here, taking my spine into that deeper curve. So just have a think about whether that might be happening to you and whether you might need to slightly tuck under to keep a more neutral lower back. We're trying to activate the hamstrings and glutes here. So we started down in the calves, didn't we? We're working up the back of the body. So as I go out, I feel a stretch in my hamstrings and glutes, and as I come up, they're pulling me back up. If you do notice that actually you're feeling this in your lower back rather than your hamstrings and glutes, you could try adding in a little bit more core support. So remember that corset muscle I mentioned at the beginning? We can think about maybe activating that a little bit to help give that lower back some support so it's not taking over. So we're going to do a couple more of these, inhaling as you hinge, exhaling as you push back up. And on the last one, we're going to come out halfway and we're going to hold that last one there. Now, I always mention this in our Bump Plan Live classes. This is a real mum movement. Once your babies are here, you spend a lot of time changing nappies, bathing your babies, doing all of those things in this slight hip hinge. So are we able to make sure that we're comfy here? The glutes are helping us stay here. We've got some support from that corset muscle so the back doesn't take over. And we're just going to hold it here. If you need a break, please take it. Remember, always a good way of checking that you're not working too hard is, could you talk to me? Tell me what you had for breakfast. Now, when you're ready, you're going to slowly push yourselves all the way back to standing. Have a bit of a wiggle, have a bit of a shake out, and have a quick rest. So we're working our way up the body here. The postural chain is really important during pregnancy because that's the group of muscles running up the back of the body that are holding the weight of your bump. So we're going to come back to standing in neutral. We're going to bring our hands to prayer and relax the shoulders. Building on what we've just practiced, I'd like you to come back into a half hip hinge. So let the bum press back, hinge forwards and hold. If you are a little bit like me and you're a bit lordotic and you end up here, okay, remember, you might want to just think about having a little tuck and a bit more core engagement. There might be some of you doing the opposite. You might be here. You've got to try and let that go a bit. Then from here, I want you to imagine that you're about to sit down on the toilet. So start to bend your knees and we're sitting back onto the toilet. We're not trying to touch our toes. So see if you can get the bum back and down. And again, get to the point where you're relatively comfortable and hold. Once you're down here, squatting might be a really basic exercise that's quite difficult to do right. I see it done wrong an awful lot. I really want you to think about those feet. Do we still have the pressure in the big toe, little toe and heel? Have a look at your knees if you can still see them. Are they pointing forwards, kind of in line with your middle toe? And have we got a relatively neutral spine? Now from here, as you exhale, I want you to push yourself back to standing and meet me in neutral. And then inhale, can you get back down to where you just were? Have a think about your positioning. And then exhale to push back up. Inhale, we squat. Exhale, we press. Now ideally, I'd love it if we were doing this in neutral. So feet hip width, knees tracking forwards. But maybe you've got a really low or a really big bump and that's not giving you much range. You could go wider and take this into a sumo squat. It's a bit more adductors, a bit more inner thigh, and you might find you just get to go a bit deeper into your squat. As long as that's comfortable for you, then please go with that. So we're going to do 4 more of these. It's a great time during pregnancy to practice this because when we have our babies and we're picking them up, picking muslins off the floor and all of that lot. Let's do 2 more. And on the last one, I'll face towards you. We're going to come down, we're going to hold. I really want you to check your positioning again, so just watch that you're not rib flaring and back bending. Now with your knees, can we bring them towards each other and then back to neutral? In and then return. Rotate in and then return. So this is medial rotation. Anyone planning a vaginal birth, this position in rotating in can be really helpful at opening the base of the pelvis. And squats in general, great position for an active birth if you're planning a vaginal birth. We'll do 4 more of these, almost there. 3, lovely, last 2. On the last one, maybe we bring the knees together and hold. Can we go a little deeper? Can you still talk? 3, 2, 1, stand up and give your legs a quick shake out. Now, if there's anyone in the class who just feels that work in the lower back, feel free to get in touch over Instagram or over email. There's a few tips I can give you for that because it's kind of common during pregnancy. So last exercise in standing, we've gone up the back of the body. Last bit I'd like us to focus on is this thoracic spine. So this upper curve. Bigger boobs, bigger bumps can mean that we can end up a little bit rounded through the upper back. So we find neutral. Bring your fingers this time to your temples, elbows wide, and then stay there for a moment and just check that you're still in neutral. Yeah, so you might have noticed that that's already caused you to do this. Just start as neutral as you can. Now, if you think about this pelvis like it's a bowl of water, let's keep that where it is. But on your next inhale, I'd like you to start taking your eye line and your chest up towards the ceiling. And we're aiming for thoracic extension here. So I don't want the pelvis to tip forwards. Try and keep it where you started. Instead, think about lengthening the upper back, lifting the chest towards the ceiling. On your next exhale, using your abdominals slightly, think about bringing your rib cage back to neutral and your eye line straight ahead. And then we'll do it again. So inhale, we're going to slowly start to lift the chest and the eyes up towards the ceiling. And on the exhale, we'll slowly return to neutral. Inhaling as you lift, exhaling as you return. So hopefully you can see that my pelvis isn't changing position. So actually my lower back isn't really changing shape. This is more about lengthening and extending this upper back. Again, mainly during pregnancy, but also just our lives are on our phones, on laptops, or we've already got kids. Think about how much rounding we get through the upper back. So this is a really great way of strengthening that upper back and opening it out. And what's the back of your neck doing? Is it going really wrinkly? If so, you're probably just doing this. You're probably just moving your neck. Let's try and get the spine moving. Otherwise, we're cheating. Let's do 2 more of these. Good, last one. Let's lift and hold that last one there and stay. So pelvis is neutral. This might feel really challenging if you do spend a lot of time on your phones or your laptops. And then when you're ready, come back to neutral, relax, and it should probably make you want to do a bit of this. That's always a great sign. If an exercise makes you want to do this, it's probably an exercise that's stopping you doing that during the day. So that is us in standing finish. So if you are thinking, when do I get to lie down? It's coming up. If you have a big bump, you might want to think about grabbing a pillow or a rolled up towel or a cushion and just popping it next to the head end of your mat, because you might want it when you're lying on your side. So we're going to make our way to the end of our mats now. So coming to the end, and then just reset for me. Take a few big deep breaths here, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Thinking again about that nice 360 breath that we've been talking about. We're going to take another big deep breath in, and on the exhale, we're going to take a roll down, so chin to chest, and then slowly start peeling down, a vertebra at a time, arms nice and dangly, those knees are not locked. Now, when you get to the bottom, you might find that you haven't got enough space for your bump, so you can always take your feet further apart. If it's too deep a stretch for you, you could start here, so bend knees and your hands on your knees. And it's a really great way of giving that postural chain that we've just been talking about a bit of a break. So if it's working so hard during the day to carry the weight of that growing bump, we do want to give it a chance to just chill out every now and again. Let the back of your neck go as well. So try and look at your thighs rather than your mat. And then when you're ready, if you feel safe to do so, just bend your knees enough that you can bring your hands to the floor. And I'd like you to carefully come out and meet me on hands and knees. So down on 4-point kneeling. Now, during pregnancy, carpal tunnel syndrome can be a little bit more common, but equally just weight bearing on your arms can be quite tiring with an extra bit of weight in your bum. So feel free to put more weight back through your legs. You don't have to be right over these hands. You can sit back a bit. Think about finding that relatively neutral start position again. So ribs stacked over the pelvis. We don't want this, ideally. We don't want this. So find that middle ground. Come back to the breath, breathing in through your nose, breathing out through your mouth. And once you've found that breath, you might already notice that there's some movement in your abdominal area. If you have a look down, look what happens on the exhale, if it's a slightly forced exhale, and then look what happens on the inhale. Hopefully, just like we practiced in standing, you can see that when you exhale, there's a little bit of a lifting of your tummy. That's that contraction of that corset muscle. And on the inhale, you might notice it softening off. Now, on your next exhale, I'd like you to engage that core a little bit. So maybe a little bit of pelvic floor and a little bit of corset. So we're hugging our babies in. We can still breathe, we can still talk, yeah? Once you've got that, we're then going to work out which one is our left arm. That's sometimes the hardest part here. Work out which one your left arm is. We're going to slide it along the mat, keeping the fingers in contact with the floor. From here, all we're going to do is exhale to reach that left arm up, ideally around shoulder or ear height, but if that makes you do this, because you're really tight through the chest, you don't have to go as high. Then inhale, lower the fingertips to the floor. Exhale, we lift that left arm. Inhale, we lower the left arm. We're going to keep this going. So we can think of this left arm as being our Superman arm. We exhale, reach, and we inhale, release. As you're moving your left arm, can you try and keep your spine relatively still, just so it doesn't become too much of this. We're not moving the back, we're moving the arm and the shoulder. And then if anybody wants it, we can also introduce the opposite leg, so we can extend the right leg away. So it's opposite arm, opposite leg. And then we lift the arm and the leg, and then we lower the arm and the leg. Same concept though, we want to keep the spine pretty neutral, so we know the movement is coming from the shoulder and the hip, not from the spine, and we're not just cheating. So we've got a bit of engagement through the core, and that is going to give us the stabilizing effect and keep the spine pretty still. Lovely. Let's do 4 more here. How is your right shoulder? Try not to sink into it if you can help. Good. Last 2. On the last one, we're going to lift the arm and leg up and hold if you've got the leg involved. Otherwise, it's just the arm and stay. Think about whether you've got any rib flare going on. Hopefully, we've kept those ribs roughly in alignment with the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Now, I would come up to standing kneel and give that right arm a bit of a wiggle and a bit of a shake out. Hopefully, you're all still there. I actually can't see the number. I know we haven't hit the record though, because my husband's going to come up and tell us if we have. But hopefully you can still hear me, you're still there. Now from here, we're going to roll and lie on our left-hand side. So come to lie on your left-hand side. Now this is where you might want something under your bum. So, you might have a little roll-up towel underneath it, but I want your legs pretty straight, slightly in front of you, so you look a little bit like a banana. Arm is extended. You could lie with your head on your shoulder or feel free to put something under your head for a bit more height. But what I do want is for you to look down and try and get your hip bones roughly stacked and a bit of lift under the left side of the waist. Now I know that can be difficult if you have a bump or you've got some fat there. It's not about having skin away from the floor, but try not to just sink the ribs into the mat. Let's feel like we're pretty neutral. Now work out which one is your right leg, the top one, reach it away and then lift it up towards the ceiling and hold. Now, once we've lifted up this leg, we often, or I see a lot of my clients, we go a bit high, we get a bit excited. Maybe we also, like me, grew up watching Jane Fonda videos, so their legs are up here. We don't need to go very high. I want you to only go as high as you can keep that pelvis pretty neutral. Now inhale, you're going to lower that leg slowly down towards the floor, then we're going to do it again. Exhale, lift and reach. Inhale to slowly lower the leg back down. So what we're aiming for here is activating this glute med, which is in the side of your hip. And I want you to target that area. To do that, we need to keep the pelvis relatively still. So the movement is the leg moving in the hip socket. It's not the spine moving. Look how much height I can get just by moving my spine and my pelvis. And I'm completely bypassing that muscle. So instead, I'm going to keep the pelvis still. And I'm going to try and just move the leg in the hip socket. Does that make sense? And you'll notice that that creates a big difference. We'll probably start to feel a feeling here. Sometimes it feels a bit like cramp. It's on its way. You might want to wriggle your toes every now and again just to make sure that you don't actually get cramp. But we're wanting the leg to abduct, to move out to the side, but the pelvis to stay relatively still. And it's not because it's going to harm you if you move your pelvis. It's more just that you'll start compensating and using other muscle groups. I want us to try and work this muscle. It's a really great stabilizing muscle when you're moving from leg to leg. So when you're walking, running, cycling. We're going to do 3 more of these. Hopefully you can start feeling it warm up. Last 2. And on the last one, we're going to lift that leg. We're going to hold that last one there and stay. Have we still got that slight feeling of lift under the left side of the waist? Hold it for 3 and 2 and 1 and rest. Bend your knees a little bit, give your bum a rub, have a bit of a wiggle of your ankle. And then when you're ready, carefully use your hands to push yourself up to seated. Now, find a comfortable seated position, not that easy after that exercise. It might be cross-legged, it might be frog's legs, straight legs, bent legs, whatever's most comfortable for you. But you can even sit on the sofa if you like. Come to sitting in a relatively neutral position. So maybe think about your skull being above your pelvis. And then we're going to take the arms to the side of the body, elbows bent to 90 degrees, palms facing the ceiling. So from the side, we're trying to get the elbow bone roughly below the shoulder bone. So find that alignment there. Then just take a moment to relax the shoulders away from your ears and give your head a bit of a wiggle so it's not all in your neck. Now from here, we're going into dumb waiters. So I want you to imagine that on your hands, you've got plates of spaghetti that you don't want to spill. Under your armpits, you've got newspapers you don't want to drop. On the exhale, we're going to slowly start to take the hands away from each other as far as we can go without dropping the newspapers and without dropping the spaghetti. And we're going to hold it there for a moment. Now, you might find you don't get a huge range of movement, particularly if you do spend a lot of your day like this. Of course, we're going to be a little bit stiff going this way, sternal rotation. So hold it there And just see if you can work on the depth. Can you go a touch further? Sorry, I got an itchy nose. Once you've found that depth, can you just check you haven't popped the ribs out? See if you can keep relatively neutral, just so we're not cheating. And then when you're ready, inhale, bring those hands back towards each other. We do it again. Exhale, we're going to separate those hands, rotate the arm in the shoulder. Inhale, slowly the hands come back together. So what we've hopefully got here is rotation of the arm in the shoulder socket. So that really does need to happen. I'll show you from the side. Otherwise, what we do tend to see a lot of in clients is a bit of this and then a bit of this. So where is the movement actually coming from? We're probably cheating. And usually it's just because that's the easier option, but it's not going to fix the problem. So try and keep the spine relatively still and move the arm in the shoulder socket. Good. Let's do 2 more of these. On the last one, let's open out these arms. Hold that last one there for me. Lovely. For 3 and 2 and 1 and rest. And again, it should be an exercise that makes you want to slouch afterwards. So when you're ready, come back to hands and knees for me. So back to full point kneeling. We've got the other leg and Superman arm to do. So back to full point kneeling. Remember I said about maybe not having too much weight through the arms. Find a relatively neutral spine, and then maybe we just hug our babies in slightly. So a bit of core activation. This time work out which one is your right arm. Extend it along the mat, keeping your fingers in contact with the floor. And then when you're ready, lift that arm up. So you only want to go as high as you can stay relatively neutral, but it should be a challenge. And then when you're ready, inhale, lower the fingertips to the floor. Exhale, we lift the arm up. Inhale to lower and exhale to lift. So we're working behind that right shoulder. If you want more, and you're not going to kick a coffee table over or a dog, extend your left leg and we can add the leg in as well. Okay, so it becomes more of a full Superman. Good. So keeping that spine neutral. Similar to what I mentioned when we were doing that sideline leg lift, there's nothing wrong necessarily with us back bending and then flexing. It's just we're probably going to be recruiting our back muscles more than our left glute and behind the right shoulder. And we might find that we're just going into the area of our body that's already pretty strong and already takes over and bypassing the muscles that need the help. So let's try and stay neutral if we can. Good. Try not to lean to the right too much if you can help it. I know it's almost impossible to not lean. We're going to do 2 more of these. On the last one, let's see if we can lift and hold it there for a moment. Try not to sink into this left shoulder. Lovely. Have you still got a little bit of a hug of your baby? 3, 2, 1. Hand and knee down. Come up to standing kneel and just give that left arm a wiggle. It's always going to be a bit tired by the end of that exercise. Lovely. Carefully come and lie on your right hand side. Just like before, lying on your right, make sure you're comfy. That's the most important thing. Legs are relatively straight. They're slightly in front of you, just for some stability. Look a bit like a banana from above. Check the pelvis. So are the hips relatively stacked? Have you got some lift under the waist? And then you can always add in a little bit of that corset muscle, because remember it's a stabilizer, sort of stop you from wriggling around. Reach the left leg away. And then when you're ready to exhale, lift the leg up for the first one and just hold and ask yourself, have I actually just side bended? So we can all get the leg really high by moving our spines, but can we just lift it high enough that we can keep the pelvis still? Inhale, we lower the leg back down. Exhale, we lift the leg back up. And let's keep that leg moving. So moving with the breath, exhaling as you lift and inhaling as you lower. So we are almost done with the class. I have no idea whether anyone is still there, but I'll be over to chat at the end of the class. And if you have any questions, do feel free to stay behind and chat to me. I'll stay on until all the questions have gone. But for now, let's finish this last exercise with a bit of a stinky one. So hopefully you can feel the side of that left hip is warming up. Again, it is one of those areas of the body when we're working glute med in this, whether we're in standing on a single leg, can feel a little bit crampy. So it can feel a bit dodgy. I would give the toes a wiggle just so that you don't actually get cramp in your foot. But it's not the nicest exercise in the world. But again, it's really helpful if you do still run or jog or you want to do that postnatally. Try and think about that lightness under the right side of the waist. So again, it doesn't actually have to be that there's daylight there. Maybe we imagine there's a cream egg under there. We don't want to crush it with the side of the rib cage. Let's do 3 more of these. Exhaling as you lift. Last 2. Lovely. On the last one, let's see if we can lift. Can we hold it there? Keeping that lift. Keep reaching. Is your hip on fire? 3, 2, 1. Lower the leg down. Bend your knees. Give your bum a rub or a wiggle or a punch. That also feels nice. Have a bit of a breather. And then when you're ready, gently use your hands to push yourselves up to seated. And just take a moment to check you don't feel lightheaded. Just spend a moment here for a second. Now, coming up to standing, I'm going to give you one option, but if that doesn't feel right for you, you can just step up as if you're almost doing a lunge. But otherwise, if you want to come up with me, I want you to meet me in 4-point kneeling. So hands and knees. Tuck your toes under, and then keeping your knees bent, lift your bums up into the air. Start to walk your hands towards your feet until you're back at the bottom of the roll down we practiced earlier on. You still got the same options. You can have your feet nice and wide if your butt's really big. You can have your hands here if that type of stretch is just a bit too intense for you. But enjoy it. Relax the back of your neck and hold it here. And guys, I wish I could keep going. I could teach you all night, but hopefully you have enjoyed the class and you're feeling good. You've got your body moving. When you're ready, we're going to slowly start to restack the spine back up. We're using all those lovely postural muscles that we thought about at the beginning of the class. Think about how they help to bring you back to standing. And then once you get to the top, just close your eyes for me. Relax your shoulders. And just take a few big deep breaths. So breathing into all of the rib cage. And as you exhale, just clean out those lungs. Feel like you're getting rid of every last drop of breath. And then do one more for me. Nice big deep breath in. Fill up all of the rib cage. And as you exhale, you can let it all go. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Have a bit of a wiggle and a bit of a shake out. And that is you done for tonight. So thank you so much for joining. I'll have a look through your comments in just a moment, but just a quick bit of admin before you leave. If you are pregnant and you were doing the class, just make sure that you stay hydrated. So go and have some water, maybe go and have a snack as well. Who needs an extra excuse? Listen to your body, rest if you need it. And I hope that you enjoyed the class. Just a reminder, in case anybody did miss the beginning of this, for everyone who turned up this evening, we will be donating £1 to the Active Pregnancy Foundation. So do check them out as well. If you are pregnant or you work with pregnant women or birthing people, please do check them out because they've got so much up-to-date, incredible advice. Lots of the advice that's out there is quite outdated. If you enjoyed the class and you want to do more exercise like this, then do check out the bump plan. We have a pregnancy and postnatal online fitness plan that we'd love to welcome you to. There's also a £5 a month discount at the moment in celebration of International Women's Day. You just need to use the code IWD5, so International Women's Day 5. If you have any questions, though, feel free to put them in the chat and I will try and answer them, or do email us or send us a message on Instagram. If you took any photos from tonight, then please do share them on Instagram, tagging at the bump plan with the hashtag break the record. But otherwise, thank you so much for coming along this evening. We haven't broken the record, I can tell you that now, but that's okay. Even if tonight has just inspired one pregnant person to move their bodies more, then it's a win in my book. So thank you so much, everyone who came along. I'm going to have a look through, but any questions, do pop them in now. But otherwise, I won't take up much more of your evening. Go and have something to eat and a drink, and I will see some of you maybe on the bump plan. Have a lovely rest of the evening, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Let's have a look. Oh, thanks, everybody. Victoria, well done. 34 weeks. Thanks, Charlotte. So glad you enjoyed it. Thanks, Tamsin. Thanks, Claire. Lovely. Oh, great, Gina. I'm so glad that it was clear. Lovely. Hi, Sophie. Thanks for coming. Jade, have to leave at 5:30. Oh, no worries. Sean, if you're still here, nice to see you, Sean. I'm so glad that eventually the audio worked. That's really good. It was a bit of a stress at the beginning. Oh, thanks, Ben. Hi, Tate and Vanessa. Oh, so nice to see you. Thanks, Sean. Feel free to log off now as well, because this is just going to be, thanks, Auntie Sue. This is just going to be me thanking people for coming. Not the best content. Thank you, Sophie. Lovely to see you. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. One day we'll get the record. One day, maybe this will be the last time I try. Who else did we have in the class? No questions. Well, hopefully that's good. Hi, Emily. Oh, hello. Oh, it's so nice to see so many of you showed up. Well, look, I will let you all go. I'm going to end the stream as well, but thank you, everyone. Thanks, Sophie/Jimmy. I'll let you guys all go, but thank you so much, everyone who showed up. Have a lovely rest of the evening. And yes, Mum, go and have a glass of wine now. Bye.